Welcome to St. Paul. I am Pastor Lisa Dietrich, pastor here, and we welcome you not to just this event, but to all the ministries that we have to offer. We hope that you stay afterwards tonight. Join us downstairs. There will be lots of refreshments. You're not at a Lutheran church without being fed a whole bunch. So there's decaf coffee and lemonade too. We'll take care of that in too. I want you to know that this congregation just became recently a reconciled in Christ congregation. And so what that means here is that we don't care who you love, the color of your skin, or how much money you have in your pockets. We just want you to know that here you are welcome, and that you matter to God, and that you matter to us. In your bulletins for tonight, you will see that our schedule for Holy Week next week. If you do not have a worship home, we would love for this to be your place of worship. And I would love the opportunity to be your pastor. So always feel welcome here. We hope that you feel loved here and that you feel God's love here. During the service, at the end of the service, the congregation will be invited to come forward and to receive Holy Communion. There'll be wafers. You just take a wafer and dip either in the chalice, the cup holding wine, or the cup holding juice. They're labeled up here. So if you don't want one, you can get the other. And then just return. We ask that you leave in silence till you get out there, and then we'll invite you downstairs. So we hope the men have worked very hard at this service for you tonight. It's a little bit different in that they have a couple different poses that they do. Their final pose is the pose of the painting. We also have included a couple women, and our narrator will explain why we have included women in this story, at least at the beginning. So we invite you to prepare your hearts for the telling of the Last Supper.
Were you there when they crucified my Lord? Were you there when they crucified my Lord? Oh, sometimes it causes me to tremble, tremble, tremble. Were you there when they crucified my Lord? Were you there when the sun refused to shine? Were you there when the sun refused to
Leonardo da Vinci, famous painter during the Renaissance era, was born in Vinci, Italy in 1452. While he has a collection of beautiful works, perhaps one of his most famous paintings is The Last Supper. In 1494, when Leonardo was 42 years old, he was hired by the Duke of Milan to decorate the dining room of the convent church, which was the favorite shrine of the Duke's young bride. For the dining room's theme, Da Vinci chose, appropriately, the Last Supper. However, instead of doing a faithful reproduction of the original scene as it had taken place in first century Palestine, Da Vinci chose to reproduce the scene as if it had taken place in 15th century Italy, using what he considered to be the most dramatic moment of the Last Supper, when Jesus reveals to the apostles that one of them will betray him. In this living dramatization, reset to modern times and language, we get a glimpse of what the apostles might have been thinking, feeling, and saying after Jesus speaks those ominous words, "One of you will betray me." Men of our St. Paul Lutheran congregation will recreate this painting and allow us to sense the emotions of the moment in a live setting. As each man takes up the role of his character, allow their involvement to bring you into the upper room. Share this night with them. In this version of the Last Supper, you will see that we have included at the beginning a few women. When the disciples and Christ would have celebrated the Passover, families would have gathered from all around to be together on this special night. Men, women, and children would have all been together to celebrate and remember finally being free from slavery in Egypt. After Jesus and the apostles have communed, the service will conclude with the congregation taking communion from the table in front of where Christ and his disciples are sitting. Our ushers will invite you to come to the table a pew at a time. Take a wafer, dip it in the chalice, and eat. Please exit the sanctuary silently. We have sought to recreate the painting as faithfully as possible. Come silently. Come. Come to the upper room. On the first day of the festival of unleavened bread, when the Passover lamb is sacrificed, Jesus' disciples asked him, "Where do you want us to go to prepare the Passover meal for you?" So Jesus sent two of them into Jerusalem with these instructions. "As you go into the city, a man carrying a pitcher of water will meet you. Follow him. At the house he enters, say to the owner, 'The teacher asks, where is the guest room where I can eat the Passover meal with my disciples?' He will take you upstairs to a large room that is already set up. That is where you should prepare our meal." So the two disciples went into the city and found everything just as Jesus had said, and they prepared the Passover meal there. In the evening, Jesus arrived with the 12 disciples. As they were at the table eating, Jesus said, I tell you the truth, one of you eating with me here tonight will betray me. Greatly distressed, each one asked in turn, Am I the one? Is it I?
My name is Bartholomew, Nathaniel, but my friends call me Bartholomew. Like many of the other disciples, I'm a fisherman. I met Jesus when I was working as a disciple of John the Baptist. My friend Philip came and said to me, We found the man who Moses and the prophets foretold. He is called Jesus of Nazareth, the son of Joseph. I laughed and said, Can anything good really come out of Nazareth? I wasn't trying to be mean. Nazareth is just such a small and so insignificant that I couldn't believe God would reveal his chosen one there. But Philip just said, Come and see, and took me to meet Jesus. And as soon as Jesus saw me, he said, Now this looks like a guy who couldn't tell a lie to save his soul. I was a little creeped out. How do you even know me? I asked. Jesus said, Even before Philip called you, when you were under the fig tree, I saw you. You see, when I was a baby, my mom would leave me under the shade of a fig tree when she would go work in the fields. Jesus knew little things about me that even I didn't remember, possibly even since the day I was born. I just knew that this guy was the real deal. And I told him, You truly are the Son of God, the King of Israel. And I've served him as a disciple and chosen apostle ever since. Yet now, in the middle of this special supper, he tells us that one of us could betray him? How can that be? How would one of us, one of his closest friends, possibly be a traitor? In the back of my mind, I can't help asking, could it be me? Am I the one? Is it I?
My name is Matthew, but some people call me Levi or that tax collector. You know, like Zacchaeus. You may know me by a totally different name because I actually changed both my name and my life when I became friends with Jesus. It was a regular boring day at the office collecting taxes, but Jesus bursts in and exclaims, "Follow me," and then he just ran back out. It was just so different from my everyday routine that I knew I had to follow him. In fact, he was so interesting that I invited him and his disciples to a dinner party I was having that night for some business partners and coworkers. I was embarrassed and horrified when the Pharisees showed up and started criticizing Jesus for eating with sinners like me. But Jesus stood up for me and said to them, "Those who are healthy don't need a doctor, but those who are sick do." I was impressed. I knew that this is the kind of life I wanted to lead, the kind of person I wanted to be. I did some more research, studying scriptures closely, listening to Jesus' sermons, and eventually repenting and following him. I now know that he is the Messiah, God's anointed, the one the prophets talked about. And I plan on writing a paper to prove it, using our sacred writings and taking notes using his Sermon on the Mount in Galilee 3 years ago. I was so excited, ready to bring the good news and new gospel to the world, then Jesus throws his bad news at us, that one of us will betray him. I feel like my past is coming back to haunt me. Will the others suspect me because I used to be a tax collector? Even worse, do I trust myself? Am I the one? Is it I?
My name is James. It's a pretty common name though, so sometimes people call me James the Little or James the Lesser, because I'm a little smaller than the other James. My dad's name was Alphaeus, so I'm also known as James the son of Alphaeus. I'll never forget the first time I saw Jesus. I was walking down the road by where Jesus was baptizing when I noticed a huge crowd gathered. I was curious to see what was going on, so I went down for a closer look. This man Jesus was asking John to baptize him, and John was refusing, but Jesus insisted. When John finally gave in and finished baptizing him, I swear I saw the sky open and the Holy Spirit swooping down on Jesus in the form of a dove. The whole crowd heard a voice from heaven saying, "This is my beloved Son, with whom I'm well pleased." At the end of Jesus' first year of public ministry, he chose me as one of his 12 apostles, and we've been best friends ever since, walking and talking together, praying together, and trying to learn everything I can about him and his heavenly Father. But now Jesus is saying that one of us will betray him. No way. It would have to be a stranger, somebody crazy and outside of our group. But Jesus is so sure, and I have to ask myself, am I the one? Is it I?
My name is James, and I am one of Jesus' chosen 12 apostles. My brother John and I used to be ordinary fishermen before Jesus found us mending our nets with our dad Zebedee by the Sea of Galilee almost 3 years ago. I always knew we were meant for more than that, and sure enough, Jesus asked us to be his disciples, and even one of his 12 hand-picked apostles. Our mother Salome was so proud of us, but she wanted to make sure we get the recognition we deserve. So on our way to Jerusalem last week, we asked Jesus, "Teacher, grant us to sit at your right and left hand when you come into your kingdom." He said, "You don't know what you are talking about. Are you really able to drink the cup that I am to drink, or be baptized with the baptism with which I am baptized?" I was a little unsure of what exactly he meant, but he answered, "Of course." He looked at us sadly and said that even we would be following in his footsteps. He didn't have the power to grant us those honors in heaven. The others were a little mad when they heard what we had asked. But Jesus soothed them by saying, those who wanted to be first must be the servant of all, and demonstrated his words by washing our feet just before supper. But now I'm really confused, because despite all his promises and speeches, he's saying one of us will betray him. Who can it be? Why should one of us do such a thing? I have to wonder. Is it I?
Beneath the cross of Jesus, I long to take my stand. The shadow of a mighty rock within a weary land, a home within a wilderness, a rest upon the way, from the burning of the noontide heat and burdens of the day. Upon the cross of Jesus, my eye at times can see the very dying form of one who suffered there for me. And from my contrite heart with tears to wonders I confess the wonder of his glorious love and my unworthiness. Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom. Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom. Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom. Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom. Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom. Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom.
I'm Andrew, Simon Peter's brother. They call me Andrew the Bringer because that's what I do best, is bring others to Jesus. I'm not really talented. I'm just an ordinary Joe, like any one of you. But I've done my best to serve Jesus with what little gifts I do have. I'm the one who brought my brother Peter to Jesus, and it's been amazing to watch him be transformed. You heard about the crowd of 5,000, right? Yes, thank you. Well, I'm the guy that found the boy with the 5 loaves and the 2 fish. And just the other day, some Greeks came looking for Jesus, and I was called in to help them see the light. It's not much, but I guess Jesus saw something good in me that no one else saw, because he made me one of the 12 apostles. And we've been very close ever since. I'm not exactly in the inner circle like my brother Peter, but I've been a good friend and companion to my Lord. And truly, what greater gift could life give a fisherman like me? And now, one of us is to betray. Who could it be? How could anyone do such a thing and still live with themselves? I could never do anything like that, could I? Is it even possible? Am I the one? Is it I?
My name is Judas of Kerioth, or Judas Iscariot. Do you know I'm the only Judean in this group? Everyone else came from Galilee. But my home is in the village of Kerioth in Judea. Whatever. Despite my humble beginnings, the others must have trusted me because they elected me their treasurer. And Jesus definitely believed in me, because he chose me as one of his 12 apostles. You know, a lot of people say that I've taken money for my own use, and that Jesus aimed his talks about love of money and greed directly at me. Of course I complained when Mary washed Jesus' feet with all that expensive perfume. It was a total waste of money, and if I happened to have made a deal with the chief priests and happened to have 30 pieces of silver on me, so what? That's my business. I mean, I believe in Jesus, but he has to do something to prove he's God's Messiah, and he refuses to make a move. Now, I've made one, and he's hinting that he knows what I've done. Even mentioning when he washed my feet a few minutes ago. Give me a break. I have my reasons. I'm not as bad as you think I am, nor are you as good as you think you are. What makes you better than me? And really, what would you do if you were in my shoes and wanted Jesus to get that ball rolling? Obviously, he just needed a little push. But now I'm wondering, how should I play this? Do I pretend I didn't hear what he said? Or play along with the others and self-righteously ask, oh, is it I?
Almighty, who brought this upon me. Alas, my treason, Jesus hath undone thee. 'Twas I, Lord Jesus, it was denied thee. I crucified thee.
Hello, my name is Philip. I remember when I first met Jesus, my friends and I were listening to John the Baptist speak when Jesus came and called us to become his disciples, and we immediately turned and followed him. No questions asked. It was so cool to be there with Jesus when he fed the 5,000 with just 5 loaves and 2 fish. I was actually really worried and asking Jesus and the others about where we were going to get enough food for everyone, when Andrew brought a boy, just a kid, with his lunch to Jesus. Andrew's really good with that stuff. The other day, these Greeks came to me asking for an interview with Jesus, and I wasn't sure what to do. So I talked to Andrew first before we introduced them to Jesus. At first, I had a hard time understanding what Jesus was saying. He told us things like God was our Heavenly Father, and it just seemed way beyond my understanding. Now, having listened to him for a long time, I think I understand what he's saying. It almost seems like anyone who has met Jesus has pretty much met the Father, because in Jesus, I see everything I would want and expect to see in the Father. There is absolutely nothing about Jesus that I wouldn't want to find in the Father. But if that's true, how can there be a traitor in a group like Jesus says? Doesn't he know that by betraying Jesus, he's also betraying God? Could anyone be that blind? Could I? Am I the one? Is it I?
Thaddeus, one of the disciples whom Jesus called to be an apostle. It's such an honor. Jesus chose just 12 of us to become the foundation for a new kingdom. Just like there were 12 tribes who were the foundation of the old Jewish kingdom. I don't feel like I deserve to be among his apostles, but he chose me. And I'm so honored. It was such an amazing day. After a night praying, Jesus called each apostle to him and gave us all the authority over demons and the power to heal all kinds of diseases and illnesses. He told us to go out and preach that the kingdom of heaven is here. He warned us that we'd have to be as wise as snakes and innocent as doves, since he was sending us out like sheep being thrown with a pack of wolves. He said, and I quote, "It is enough that the disciple be like the teacher and the servant like the master." Took me back to when I was in Jerusalem, and Jesus invited everyone to follow him, saying, "Come to me, all of you who are tired and stressed, and I will give you rest. For the load I carry is easy and light." Tonight was different, though. Jesus, who came to help make our lives easier, is being forced to carry the weight of the world on his shoulders, knowing that one of us will betray him. Which one of us could it be? Maybe the person we least suspect. Or will all of us betray him before the night is over? Philip, Peter, Judas, and John, and even me. Is it I?
I am Thomas, the twin. Some people call me Didymus, which means, go figure, twin. While I'm not totally a glass half empty kind of guy, I usually do require evidence before I believe something. Just so I can see proof before jumping on the bandwagon, so to speak. I'm not a total stickler, though. Sometimes I'm really brave and spontaneous. Like the day when Mary and Martha sent word to Jesus that their brother Lazarus was dead. Jesus wanted to go see him, but most of our friends were afraid to go to Bethany because Jesus was so unpopular there. They were all afraid to go, but Jesus was determined, and I backed him up. I said, let's go with him, even if it means we die with him. It drives me nuts that people don't remember times like that. They're always bringing up the times when I was a little more cautious and doubtful. They like to talk about the times when I asked a few extra questions rather than just going with the flow. And they totally ignore how faithful and truly courageous I've been. I may have been a fisherman with them at one point, but I remember when Jesus shared the Beatitudes with us on the Horns of Hatton during his first year of public ministry. I can literally see him chewing out the winds on stormy Galilee and healing the sick, curing the diseased, opening the eyes of the blind, making the deaf hear, cleansing the lepers, and preaching gospel to the poor. It's just, there are so many people who are enemies of Jesus now, even determined to destroy him. He's trying to make us God's servants, while they are trying to make God serve them. And now, even within our group, the 12 chosen apostles, there's a traitor. Seeing enemies all around us, I'm starting to doubt even myself now. Am I the one? Is it me?
After Jesus called Peter and Andrew to follow him, he came to me, John, and my brother James, as we were in a nearby boat mending our nets with our father Zebedee. As soon as he called us, we left everything we knew, right down to the boat and our dad, and followed him. It's been both the easiest and the hardest thing I have ever done. Seeing him perform miracles and preach, I believe he is God as much as anyone will ever be. Yet, seeing him as a friend, sharing his struggles as well as his hours of victory, I love him as a person too, and he has loved me in return, even calling me the beloved disciple at times. I was there on the Mount of Transfiguration, sharing his glory, and he put Peter and I in charge of the Passover celebration arrangements here tonight because he trusts us and considers us his closest friends. He even shared with me the story of his talk with Nicodemus when he spoke those wonderful words. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whoever believes in him will have everlasting life. Someday I want to write a book of his sayings and all the amazing things he's done, so that everyone can read them and believe that Jesus is the Christ, the Son of God, and share in everlasting life with him. Yet, he just said that one of us was a betrayer. I almost can't believe it. I don't want to believe it, but it must be true, or he wouldn't have said it. Who could it be? Not my brother James or Peter or Andrew, just as likely to be John, the beloved disciple. And that's not possible. Is it? Could it be me? Am I the one? Is it I?
Hey there, I'm Simon the Zealot. Before Jesus called me, I was hanging out with a bad crowd known as the Zealots. Basically, we were a bunch of angry, trigger-happy revolutionists, all armed and ready to rebel against Rome. We're all about crushing our enemies and bringing back paradise that we thought they used to be when David and Solomon were in charge. You can imagine my surprise when Jesus told us about another kind of paradise, a kingdom within the human heart, where only God is in control. I was totally blown away. I dropped the zealots like the bad habit they were and pledged my allegiance to Jesus instead. He showed me the battle for the heart and its only true and lasting conquest. And in turn, I give him all my loyalty and devotion. Militarily speaking, I guess you could say I surrendered myself to him, unconditionally and completely. I raised a white flag, vowed to think like he thinks, to love as he loves, to obey as he obeys, and to serve as he serves. And even to love those he loves. Some from my old gang thinks that means I give up my freedom and free will, but for the first time in my life, I actually feel free. I'm not afraid of Rome anymore. It might be mighty, but God is almighty. But even now within our group, the master says there's a traitor, a deserter, a spiritual Roman among us, one who could take by force what only can be won with love. Who can it be? Matthew, the tax collector, informant servant of Rome? Or does everyone suspect me since I'm the only one with a history of violence? Is it I?
My name is Peter, formerly known as Simon, and this is my story of how I came to be with Jesus. My brother Andrew and I were fishing on the Sea of Galilee one afternoon, just casting our nets into the sea, when Jesus walked by and said, "Follow me, and I will make you fishers of men." So we did. Then one morning, after a long night of working with nothing to show for it, he said to me, "Simon, take the boat further out and throw your nets out for a catch." I admit I was pretty skeptical, exhausted, and a little bit cranky at that point, but I told him, "Master, we have been working all night with nothing to show for it, but if you tell me to, I will let down the nets." As soon as we did what he said, we had fish swimming like crazy into our nets. We actually caught so many fish, we had to call other boats nearby to help us bring them all back to shore. I was shocked and so disappointed for myself for distrusting him. As soon as we reached the shore, I fell on my knees at his feet and apologized, saying, "Leave me, O Lord, for I am a sinner." He just smiled and said again that he would make us fishers of men. It was then that he changed my name from Simon to Peter, which means the rock. And when I finally surrendered completely and announced that he was the Christ, the Son of the living God, near Caesarea Philippi, he said, Upon this rock I will build my church. I finally felt like somebody important, and I was afraid to give that up. So when he mentioned a few minutes later that he would be going to Jerusalem to die at the hands of angry men, I argued with him. I'll never forget his next words. Get behind me, Satan. It seems like I'm a mixture of good and evil, of right and wrong. Tonight, when he said that one of us would betray him, I immediately swore that it wouldn't be me, that I would follow him even to death. He just shook his head and looked at me sadly, saying that before the sun came up, I will have denied him 3 times. I know the others call me the big fisherman, but with Jesus, I feel so small and unworthy. Will I really deny him tonight before the sun rises? And if I do, what will he do? Will he kick me out of the group? Pretend he doesn't know me? Refuse to let me in his kingdom? Is this what he meant when he said one of us would betray him? And if I knew who it was going to be, I'd pierce his heart through with this knife right here, right now. But what if that means piercing my own heart? God, please don't let it be me. Is it possible? God forbid. Is it I?
Now, as they were eating, Jesus took bread and blessed and broke it and gave it to the disciples and said, "Take, eat. This is my body." And he took a cup. And when he had given thanks, he gave it to them, saying, "Drink of it, all of you, for this is my blood of the covenant, which is poured out for the many for the forgiveness of sins. I tell you, I shall not drink again of this fruit of the vine until that day when I drink it new with you in my Father's kingdom."
Who is that man? Oh, who is that man? Praying in a moonlit garden. What does he seek? Why does he weep all alone? Where have they gone? always walk beside him. Where can they be? Why do they leave him alone? Alone. Why, oh why do some want to hurt him? What has he done to make them afraid? Why, oh why do his friends now desert him, closing their eyes, turning away? Who is that man? Oh, who is that man hanging there in pain and sorrow? Why must he die? Why must he suffer there and die? Oh.